You are watching Arcade Nova.
What is going on, everybody? Today, we're going to be doing a pickups video because I got some decently cool stuff between December and January, and I figured I'd show it off because I've always wanted to do this sort of thing, but it kind of depends on, like, I have to have a month or two, in which I have acquired a decent amount of stuff to actually show off, and I think this time I've done pretty well. So, the first acquisition here is Heavy Nova for the Sega Genesis. I had never actually heard of this game until I had seen it at this thing that I was at. Basically, this local convention decided to hold a thing at my local mall in which there was a bunch of just fucking vendors just selling shit, right before Christmas, just as like a thing. So I picked up Heavy Nova for the Sega Genesis because, I mean, look at this shit. It looks fucking sick. I'd never seen this game. It's like some sort of beat 'em up, fighting game hybrid. Pretty fucking cool. It also, there's obviously the Nova tie, as well as another interesting thing about this game is that it was also released for the Sharp X6800, which is a console or a Japanese computer library that I'm pretty fascinated with. It of course, obviously received a Genesis port as well, but there is a line of, games that have this very similar design in mechs. I'm not sure if that's coincidental. I'm not sure if it has to do with the fact that they all seem to be sort of influenced by the Ghost in the Shell dude, whatever the fuck that guy's name is. But that's something I might actually get into later, so we'll save that for another day. Yeah, I don't know where the fuck I'm going to put these so that they don't get in front of the camera. Alright, and from that same vendor, this was the only other thing I bought that day, but this is Fighting Force for the PS1. Another pretty interesting game, because this is also within a sort of strange linearity of games. Less similar to that, but essentially this game is one of few 3D beat 'em ups. It's an interesting subgenre that is inherently sort of bad. These games do not work very well, but I do find them intriguing, and I like me some beat 'em ups, and I like me the PS1, so I decided to get this game. I've yet to play Dynamite Cop or Dynamite Deka 2. I've played the first one, or Die Hard Arcade, blah, 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 which is sort of considered, Dynamite Cop is supposed to be the best one of those 3D beat 'em ups. But anyway, next up here, we're in the Christmas zone now, because these two items that I received were gifts. So I forgot, I meant to put this back in the box. But whatever. We got the Mega Everdrive X3. So this is, of course, a flash cart for the Genesis, and I've never owned a flash cart before. So, yeah, with that being said, Heavy Nova is likely the last game that I will ever purchase on the Sega Genesis, because I have this thing now, and I don't really... Because normally I'm, against that kind of thing, because I like to collect games, obviously. But I figured it would be kind of cool to try out a flash cart, and I am very satisfied with my experience thus far. So, yeah, definitely a worthwhile thing to possess. And then the other thing I got for Christmas related to Vidya games is this here Namco Arcade Classics book. So this is by Hardcore Gaming 101. This is the 6th digest of the 6th volume of their HG 101 digest series. The only other Hardcore Gaming 101 book I actually own is the Treasure book, but I would like to get a bunch more of these. I've been reading Hardcore Gaming 101 since, I don't know, I want to say 2012 or so, and they introduced me to a lot of really cool games. They were pretty much my home for discovering a lot more of the obscure Japanese arcadey kind of stuff that I'm really into now. So I very much thank these guys for doing what they do. And I was actually able to meet Kurt Kalata last year at a convention, the founder of the site. So that was really cool. And I bought the Treasure book directly from him. But yeah, these books are all really cool. If this is your kind of thing, you should definitely, look into some of these books. They're They're filled up with cool information. A lot of the, but yeah, like, so you got Anime Dig Dug Guy. Pretty cool. But yeah, a lot of this shit is pulled right from the site, but they do usually, with these books, grant you a bunch of bonus information. There is definitely some original content in here, though. I don't really care either way, because I just want to support the brand and the site, and I also just, you know, I much rather read it in this physical form. It's splendid. So yeah, check out these things. I'm just gonna fucking blah. All right. Now back to video games. So I recently, just this Sunday, went to me local flea market, and I acquired two things. The first of which is a game that I've wanted to play for a very long time, Rez, for the PlayStation 2. So this was originally a Dreamcast game, and it was, you know, ported to the PlayStation 2 as well as like the 360 as an HD version, and then it's also now available on PS4 and PC as a VR game, which I'd love to try at some point, but I do not currently possess a VR headset of any kind. But nonetheless, I'm very glad to have experienced this game now. It is something that can't really be described. I mean, it sort of can. This is one of those games where it's essentially a mesh of like genres. You could describe it as like a rail shooter rhythm game, but that really doesn't do it any justice. The combination of those two things makes this game a wholly unique experience that you must try to understand. And I will leave it at that for this game. And then also at the same flea market, from the same seller, I purchased... Oh, wait, no, I lied. This was actually a different seller. This was just, like, I just found this at with some random old dude. This I got from a dude who, like, regularly sells games there. And, but yeah, as you can see, this is a Japanese copy of Brain Age for the Nintendo DS. Quite a strange acquisition. I was very surprised to see this at a flea market, you know, in America, obviously. Very weird. I don't know why, like, he had this by chance. But yeah. Can't really do anything much with this now because I'm a weeaboo in training. So, but maybe one day I will come to understand this experience and I will be able to enjoy it. All right, next up here is something I also got that same day, but not at the flea market. Just separately from that, I decided to go over to one of my local game shops, one of my local retro game shops that has cool things. So I got me a 6-button Genesis controller, because I've never had one of these, and I already had 2 Genesis controllers, but one of them is fucking garbage. So I just decided to pick one of these up, and now I have 2 good Genesis controllers, including a 6-button controller, which is only used for, like, I want to say, like, 30 or so games. But nonetheless, it's pretty cool to have, and it's either, like, regardless, this controller is far more comfortable than the fucking regular 3-button Genesis controller, which is chunky as fuck. Like, the things go like bleh. You know, it's shit. This thing is nice. So yeah, I'm very glad to have it. It's very cool. And then the last thing I've got for now, though I do have more to showcase in the future, but you will be seeing it in present time. I purchased this here 100 games to play before you die. I had a Barnes & Noble gift card, so I grabbed this. And this is pretty fucking cool. This is a special issue of Retro Gamer magazine, the UK magazine. And, you know, I like lists of things. I like understanding the entirety of the space-time continuum. And I want to experience every video game ever made. So I fucking got this book. So they could tell me what games to play, even though, in actuality, I pretty much already know what these kind of lists look like. You know, I've read enough of them, and I've played enough of them, of the games within them, that I sort of have a general idea of, you know, what these lists are going to look like. But obviously, that's just a small portion of this magazine, because it's a pretty big magazine. It's got, like, a bunch of, like, developer interviews and stuff. Like, here's a thing about Metal Gear. There's just, like, a bunch of cool stuff surrounding the games that they feature. And it's cool. I really like this kind of thing. I like books and magazines and all of that stuff. So, yeah, I picked this up. And so far there's been some pretty good reads in here. You know, Like, this kind of thing is not very useful. It's like, how to beat Mega Man 2. It's like, well, you know, I've been to Mega Man 2 and back plenty of times, but nonetheless, this is still really cool. So yeah, transition to the cool half of the video where I get to talk about shoot 'em ups. Now, I got a bunch of PlayStation 2 games, and particularly a lot of shmups, like I just said. I do have a couple other games to showcase. First, let's just get through these real snappy. So, this here is Baten Kaitos, Eternal Wings and the Lost Ocean by Namco, an RPG for the GameCube, as you can see. I honestly don't know too much about this one. I think, probably wrong, I think it has some connection to, like, Monolith Soft and, like, the Xeno series or whatever. I don't know. Could be completely wrong on that. Nonetheless, this is a game that I'm not, like, particularly intrigued to play, though it is something that I found for rather cheap at the flea market for the, you know, for the low, so I grabbed it. This here, Taito Legends 2 for the Sony PlayStation 2 is an excellent compilation of arcade classics and not so, like, remembered games, such as Alpine Ski, Darius Gaiden. We have Legend of Kage, Elevator Action Returns, Puzzle Bobble 2, Space Invaders DX, Gekirindan. So yeah, there's also a handful of shmups on here, as Taito, you know, they fucking made Space Invaders, so, you know, they've got a handful of shooters in their catalog. But yeah, this is an excellent compilation. I've mostly played on this one so far. Played a lot of Camel Tree, which is, like, essentially a precursor to, like, Monkey Ball in a way, in a similar kind of vein to, like, something like Marble Madness, but not really. You know, it's a marble game. You gotta fucking roll a marble through a thing. You gotta turn the table and shit. You know, you rotate the map as opposed to moving the character, like in Monkey Ball. So yeah. And then also, I've played a lot of Gekirindan, which is a fucking shoot 'em up, because I'm a shmup taku. But anyway, and then lastly to the shoot 'em ups, shmup, is We Love Katamari. So the original game was an excellent experience, and it's a very, like, complete experience. I wasn't quite sure how they would create a sequel to Katamari Damacy, but they did. Obviously, there are several sequels. This is, I don't know, a bunch of the other ones are shit, apparently. But this one was pretty fucking good. It's a pretty natural expansion of the idea. This game sort of expects you to understand what Katamari is, and from there, it is now that you understand what Katamari is, it is time to experience Katamari. Interestingly enough, this is actually the first game to be released in the PAL format, as the original game had not been. And with that, I think there is, like, a couple bonus cutscenes or something like that from the original game that they added to the PAL version. So that's cool, I guess. Yeah, interesting tidbit. But anyway, that is We Love Katamari. Now, this next game here, this is an interesting one. So, Mobile Light Force 2 is a rebranding of a game called Shikigami no Shiro, which was originally released for the Dreamcast and was ported to the PS2. That is this game right here, except is not at all what the fucking game is. They just threw some fucking bitches with guns on here. And this is actually a sequel to Mobile Light Force, in a sense, because there is a Mobile Light Force 1, which was also a rebranding of another shoot-'em-up for the PS1, which was Gunbird. And they're two completely separate series that were both rebranded to Mobile Light Force. Both shmups, obviously, but yeah, very, very strange. So yeah, but anyway, as far as the actual game goes, this is a pretty decent bullet hell. It's not the best I've ever played. It's got anime characters, and it's cool, and it's fun, and it's got co-op multiplayer, and blah, 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 blah. But it's pretty basic. Pretty cheap at times. Generally speaking, though, it's a pretty solid game. It's not the best around, but it's worth a shot, especially if you can get it for as cheap as I did. I think this is also available on Steam, but yeah. Next up is the third entry in the Raiden franchise. So I think when this game had come out, it was like 11 years since there had been another Raiden game. The last one, I think, would have been Raiden DX for the Sony PlayStation. What do I got to say about this here game? Well, it sucks. I would consider this game to be pretty solid, if not for the fact that your ship is way too fucking slow, and the bullets come at you way too fucking fast. It's not that the bullet patterns are particularly intricate or anything. They're pretty easy to pass to, you know, navigate through. Again, if not for the fact that your control is very limited. It feels very sluggish, especially in the later bosses when, you know, there's just like they just like shoot mad shit at you and you just, yeah, you're fucked. The biggest omission from this game is the photon jelly beam that is present in at least Raiden 2. I don't know about Raiden 1. And definitely Raiden DX as well. It does have an equivalent in this game in the form of the slime cannon, but the slime cannon does not produce an epileptic light show or home and shit. You know, it's not. It ain't. Raiden 3 is not really worth your time, if I'm being honest. Moving on to Sylphid, The Lost Planet. So this game was developed by Game Arts, who is primarily known for their work on the Lunar series of RPGs. It was also, in some fashion or form, co-developed by Treasure of Radiant Silvergun and Ikaruga fame, as far as shmups go, and Gradius 5. And then in the West, the game is published by Working Designs, who is primarily known for translating a lot of RPGs particularly during like the Saturn and PS1 era. So this game takes place in like a sort of 2.5D perspective, not quite like a Raystorm, but you know. So the most notable thing about this game that separates it from other games in the genre mechanically is that your weapons come in the form of left and right. So you get to choose two weapons to use at once. The whole left and right idea, though, is really fucking shitty, because what ends up happening is that all your shots are going to be off-centered. So your left shots are actually going to shoot towards, like, the left, whereas your right shots are going to shoot towards the right. So if you have, like, say, a spread shot for your left, and then for your right you have just, like, some sort of laser beam or whatever, then it's going to be really weird trying to shoot shit with your laser beam, because you have to, like, off-center your ship. Like, you don't... In a normal shmup, you just, oh, this is the enemy, this is me, I'm going to go... Like, I'm going to position myself under the enemy so I can shoot the ship. But instead, what ends up happening is, okay, here's the ship, here's me, I have to position myself but also here, a giant fucking wall of text, exposition dump. Natural. And none of it's interesting. I do not give a singular fuck about the story in this game. I just want to shoot shit, if I even want to do that, because this game is not the best, but it is a shmup on the PS2, so that's why I fucking have it. Anyways, yeah, this game